Je me mets où? Vous avez une préférence? Au bout?
Ouais. On va vous donner un mic.
Voilà. Bien. Bonjour mesdames, bonjour messieurs. Il est 12 heures, nous démarrons. C'est le coup d'envoi.
Good afternoon. We're going to kick off this meeting. Welcome to this hall number 6. I'm Emmanuel Taillardin, coordinator of all the conferences that will take place at Équipe Auto. A few points to remember. 550 exhibitors and brands. We have a lot going on, and we're very happy about it. A lot of noise, lots of people. We have a lot of villages which are extremely interesting. Body work and paint just to our left. The tires village, where you will find a fascinating exhibition since tires were invented in 1888, if I'm not mistaken. Then you have the startup village, which is always interesting to get ideas for the future. And the washing village, the car wash village, always interesting. Reuse, it's something new that started off in 2022. That is the future too. And the used car environment. So we'll have a very dense program with, first of all, the conference by Romain BALY, who is the chief editor of the Journal du Pneumatique tire journal in the Syndicate Media Group. And we'll have three big conferences, one on the development in distribution of parts and services in services, 3:30 to 5. Now the new engines tomorrow and the convergence between the three-wheeled vehicles and the two-wheeled or three-wheeled vehicles and cars, and they will get their technical control as well. And tomorrow afternoon we'll also have a forum on hydrogen. It will be extremely interesting with high-level people invited. Laurent, a journalist, is a specialist of hydrogen and will be the anchorman, and a few conferences, remanufacturing, reuse parts, and workshop waste. So much for sustainable development, innovation, tires, right away, remote electric, remote diagnosis, batteries, washing, and the maintenance data. And we'll finish off with training on Saturday morning, because everything is changing and for the best. And we will not forget about the international trophies, which will be handed just after this conference on this space. So be curious and see who is getting an award. Now, Romain, I just said too much. I wish you a very nice show, and I will give the floor to Emmanuel. Thank you very much. To Romain, sorry. Thank you, Emmanuel. Thank you for being in such large numbers. I'm Romain BALY, the chief editor of Le Journal du Pneumatique tire journal. It's nice to see that there are so many people. The show's only been open for about 2 or 3 hours, and it's already very vibrant with lots of people everywhere. So Emmanuel told you about the innovation trophies after this session. I'm not going to unveil any secret, but a main tire player will receive an award. Now, tires. Now, you've heard about it and read it in the press. It is becoming a major part of a strategy in terms of innovation. That's why the Equipoto organizational team has wanted to have a village dedicated to tires. And this village will be there again for another show, Solutrans, in 2 months. And it is also, because that is very strategic, that we're meeting today, and that the organizer wanted us to have this round table. Usually people think that tire is just rounded in shape, smells bad and is black. And that's all they know about it, but it's an essential part of repair in workshops. And that is going to become even more important. It is a significant, it's a major part of our the automotive activities. It'll be even more the case with electric vehicles. So no doubt there will be electric vehicles on all booths. So you can see about the trend. Just a few figures about that boom, that growth. End of August, according to 3A data, 174,000 electric vehicles, 100% electric vehicles had been sold. In addition to last year, and that's 40%. But manufacturers are also very active. They keep innovating to be in time to be ready for the market. So I'd like to present our speakers. Dominique, who is the president of the Professional Union of Tire Makers, and also we have Eric Goodyear EMEA director, Eric BRISARD from President, and Jean-Philippe MOYET, who is the president of DISTRICASH. So thank you very much for having accepted our invitation. Now, Dominique, I will give you the floor first. You're the president of the Union of Professional Tire Makers. Dominique, do you feel that tire is becoming again an essential element in the automotive on the automotive market? Yes, indeed. Tires do change everything because the maintenance operations on traditional engines, on piston engines will disappear, and the tires will be the major reason why cars have to be repaired. So it is becoming extremely important, and the tires on electric vehicles are more technological, more expensive and bigger. Now every time there's a deep change in industry, people think it's a new chapter, it's a new era. Isn't that a bit exaggerated? Do you think this is just a milestone or a real upheaval? Well, I think that it is really a big change on the tires market. The first low consumption tires were produced in 1992 with a new gum mixture, but things are accelerating also in terms of communication, because very regularly manufacturers communicate about the technological progresses they have made, and we increasly refer to tires today. Well, battle may not be the right word, but you do communicate on the progress made. Yes, of course I do. Indeed, it is important for a manufacturer to really highlight the value of one's work. You're right. The the famous manufacturers have set themselves the milestone of 2050 to produce 100% responsible, environment-friendly tires. But this shows this commitment to environment protection. This is a testimony of that to the public at large. Now, Jean-Philippe, MOYET. Now something is changing. Something is catching on in this field. Now, you with DISTRICASH are really a player who's close to the field. Do you think this market is mature, manufacturing is mature, or is it just the very beginning? Well, as you were saying, I am close to the field, and so are my teams, and it is only the very beginning of that big change. But every month, things are changing. We increasingly hear about those new types of tires, and manufacturers also support this new technology for tires specific for electric vehicles. But I think that people are only starting to become aware about that. I don't think there's been enough information yet or communication, so that most market players like dealers can be informed about that. Yes, I know. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. It is a subject that is discussed between professionals, but not with customers. Well, indeed, we do talk about it between ourselves, professionals, because it is clearly the tire of tomorrow. But when you go down to the consumer level, or even garage owners, a few months, a few extra months will be necessary for those people to know about the new types of tires. Eric BRISARD, you represent the First Stop network. Do you agree with what Jean-Philippe just said? Yes, indeed, it is only the very beginning. There's a time lag between the sale of electric vehicles and the time they will be sent to the workshop. But we'll have to explain to consumers, to car owners, that they need a specific type of tire. But we're here to advise customers, because for electric vehicles, people don't buy everything on the internet, or even when they do, they need to get advice in the garage, in the workshop, and so they will come for advice. Yes, I think you have to remind people that even though you might be a professional and be on the ground, you have to be able to know about this type of vehicle, to repair that type of vehicle, and be able to train people. We've started to train our passenger vehicle technicians and electric vehicles technicians, because you see, technicians fixing those cars have to be able to advise people, because now consumers are worried about where they can charge their car, and several other things, but tomorrow they will have to be advised as to what sort of tires to fit on them. And so, Laurent, this is this type of this type problem. Yeah, well, I'd like to excuse Laurent COLANTONIO, who's not been able to come. Yeah, sorry, we forgot to change the slide. Yeah, well, Goodyear has been having a partnership for years with car manufacturers. We've been working with electric vehicle manufacturers to work on the OEM, and we're implementing that technology for OEM in the replacement ranges, and we are cooperating with them. Well, for those who are in the audience who are not as familiar with the subject as you are, could you say what you have to really focus on in terms of design and development? Well, 5 points actually. First of all, battery and the weight of those batteries. We have to increase the charging capacity, wear and tear also due to the weight of batteries, roll resistance due to the weight, noise. They're noiseless, and that's another thing we have to take into account. Mobility, always to try and lower the weight of vehicles. Car manufacturers want to remove the fifth wheel, and they're investigating into other solutions like the cylinders, it's called in English, to automatically repair a flat tire. Now, Goodyear has made quite an interesting choice in terms of supply. Instead of creating new vehicle ranges, you decided to adapt your present ranges so that they can fit both thermal engine cars and electric cars. Now, well, as my colleague pointed out, we consider that there is a natural development. I just talked about the 5 points that we do discuss a lot concerning electric vehicles, and I'd like to compare that with what happened in 1992, labeling 3-15-50 campaign. You remember? I should say now 5-15. 50. 5 points, yes, noise, roll resistance. But consumers want us to talk about more subjects than that, like braking on a wet road. Well, it's a matter of safety. Everyone's expecting a vehicle to be able to brake properly when there is an obstacle or when the road is wet. So we can't just limit the development of tires to the 5 characteristics I was talking about, and that is why we have a single range which will meet all customers' expectations. I'm going to give the floor to Jean-Philippe Moyet. I think he has perhaps something to say about that. Isn't that also a way of helping distributors, because there are so many references, it's difficult to manage on the field. Indeed, I think it will facilitate inventory management, because actually we have 2 markets to address, and we need to have processes and a portfolio that can serve the customer quickly. Well, Jean-Philippe, I guess that when you're a manufacturer and you want to take it easy to develop new references, it's probably nice to hear what we just heard. Well, the management, the daily management of inventories, of stocks. Yes, indeed, in our job in retail, or concerning those new technologies, tend to complexify the ranges and increase the number of references. We've seen it a few years ago with the Four Seasons tire, which complexified the offering, the supply. With all those references, those new references for electric vehicles will have to be able to adjust to demand. The most important for manufacturers is to be able to access the market. The number of references in the field of tires is probably going to double within the next 4 or 5 years. So in order to satisfy customers, will have to still be able to store all those tires. Retailers will have to be able to store. People like us in France, in Europe, who are wholesalers, will have to be able to store those tires as well. So this is really a challenge. We know that things are going to change very quickly, and so it's a real challenge for us to implement the right solutions, to have enough stock to help manufacturers satisfy the market. Now, Jean-Philippe, retailers can't be the only ones to do that. You and your you, Jean-Philippe, and your colleagues will have to do it. Well, indeed, we are favorable to it. Indeed, it will call for a lot of investment. You know, warehouses tend to be well, actually, has changed, because 10 years ago you would have only 1,000 different references. Now we only have 700 or 800. But 20 years ago, a retailer could supply, nearly 80% of all the products that were requested. Now, today, in a few years, it'll be only about 25%, because there are so many references. So, if retailers can't propose that, it will be our role to, as distributors, to do it, to be able to supply those tires. Well, actually, that means your organization has to be really sturdy to be able to adjust. Absolutely, we have a wonderful job. I think this is a job, a slot that has a future, being distributors. But we can store. We've adapted to store a 4-season, all year-round tires, or bigger tires. But you know that there's an increasing level of regulation in France on tires. Indeed, investment is heavier and heavier every day. And if we want to be able to provide consumers with 100% of the tires they need, we'll have to play a role. Eric, we were referring to DISTRICASH, but there are other wholesalers. So you think their role has become essential? Indeed, I think that wholesalers have a bright future ahead of them. Now, the problem is today that there's an increasing number of brands and of ranges, and as Jean-Philippe was pointing out, we do not have enough storage capacities to answer 100% of demand. But for us, it's an opportunity, because customers will be advised in workshops, and customers will turn to specialists. If the garage doesn't have the tires in question, the main thing is that they can advise and send to a wholesaler. Now, are you supported by manufacturers? Do you think that they use the right arguments to customers? Yes, we are supported by manufacturers. They train us as to the new technologies, new tire technologies. Some tires can fit a thermal engine car or an electric car. Others can only fit one of those two categories. So we are being trained. on how to sell those tires to customers who are very demanding or are just a little lost. Do you think you have to be supported? Yes, indeed, because things are becoming more and more complex, an increasing number of ranges, there are new tires being produced all the time, new types of tires. So we really have to be up to date in our knowledge. Joachim, at Goodyear, have you understood that you had to support those professionals every day? Yes, indeed, we have actually identified the challenge. We have new projects, Asymmetric 6 or Performance 3 for the winter. It is an opportunity to meet with our partners and tell them about those innovations which can serve the customer. Now, if we focus a little more on customers, do you and what we can propose to customers, to car owners, we've heard for some time that it's difficult to design an electric vehicle because it is difficult to reduce the consumption of fuel and increase mileage, sustainability. Are we now having high performance products? Well, you know, the tires, there is an antagonism between the roll, the ability to brake on the wet road. It's like a triangle, you know. But Goodyear wants to work on that and wants to follow a strategy that will allow the person on the wheel, behind the wheel, to be able to react to any situation in emergency and have very performing tires. So you mean we have to be patient in terms of development? Indeed, and we are working on a constant partnership with car manufacturers, and it's an opportunity to innovate. And Goodyear is celebrating its 125th anniversary this year. I think it's worth mentioning, and we are ready to face up to that challenge. There will be other challenges. We've got quite a wider range with foam inside, which reduces noise. And it's we were mentioning noise, but it's not a new technology, but we're reviving it. Now, another thing is that tires are very expensive, and today households are being very careful about their expenses, and perhaps consumers don't want to spend so much just to change tires. Dominique, do you think that this can make it easier for low-cost brands? Do you think there could be a price battle in the field of tires, like you know, a low-cost to have low-cost tires? Well, that's what we observe at the Professional Union of Tire Makers. You know, today tires are bigger, they are more technological, and they will wear more rapidly because there's a high torque and a high weight. And with the increasing number of SUVs, we see that since tires are more expensive, users tend to buy models which are lower in the range. So that will certainly be reflected in the field of tires. Jean-Philippe, there are low-cost brands in other fields than tires. Do you know whether those low-cost brands are ready to tackle the electric vehicle market? Tires Are they ready? Oh, yes. We do distribute, well, also Chinese brands, well, the budget tires, you know, apart from a few Indian brands, those are mostly Chinese brands. Well, the tires may be made in Thailand or other Asian countries, but it's mainly Chinese factories. I distribute premium brands, secondary brands, and budget brands. And the Chinese manufacturers have acquired a certain level of technology and can produce a tire which is quite honorable in terms of price, quality price ratio. As to the electric vehicle technology, they have worked on it, and you know, we talk about plants which are representative in all the among those existing in Asia, but all those factories which are representative in the field of tires are either developing those new electric vehicle tires or have already started producing them. They are about to, or they have started producing them. Well, quality, resistance, sustainability of those tires is perhaps not the same as for others, but those brands will exist at the latest in 2025 with quite large ranges.
So, and this means that within a very short period, short or long term, it's not going to be only for the premium market. By the end of 2024, I think that we will already have a real choice. So, as a premium manufacturer, I think that we are ready. We are ready. That's just a statement of fact. Goodyear has a whole range of, let's say, products, premium and low market type of product, but also the middle market. So I think that the real stake for you, Jean-Philippe, is to sort out between the low cost that would be performing enough and those which are not performing enough. Because there you have all types of product in this segment. Well, I don't know how many hundreds of factories are manufacturing tires in China, but there are 10 or so of them who are really well established, and so we already have made our choices. We have been trying to work with those specific manufacturers or factories, and we will always try to focus on those manufacturers that can derive or can produce tires that can help the drivers to drive safely. So you've been talking about training, not just technical, but also commercial training, being able to give the proper advice to the customers. It depends on your ability to listen to the customer and know the amount he or she is prepared to spend. And you might guide him towards a given brand as opposed to another. And as a salesperson, it's not an easy task to do. Well, let's say that in terms of the budget, the budgeting with regard to the electric vehicles, I think that customers not necessarily knowing how to change their tires because it's brand new, and they would rather tend to be, I would say, conservative. I mean, they would in fact try to reuse, to buy from the OEM, and I think that that's what makes things easier. We would say, well, buy a premium tire because it takes more time to wear out, and it's, I would say, more economical in terms of fuel consumption. Well, Dominique, a question that we might have raised before. Among the car manufacturers, well,
Et
do they
plus
tend to
sensible à sa
think
voiture que
that
l'acheteur traditionnel? Est-ce que ça vaut aussi pour les pneumatiques, celui qui conduit un véhicule électrique?
those who are actually driving
Ses pneus
their
ou
cars,
pas forcément?
are they more sensitive to the car as opposed to the tires? Well, I'm not absolutely sure of that. I think that price increases are going to be quite significant if you want to access those brands, highly technological brands. So the consumer would certainly be guided towards what is really affordable to him or her, even though he or she might stand to lose in terms of wear out or in terms of fuel consumption. With the SUVs, for example, a consumer who has bought an SUV, generally speaking, doesn't have the means to buy the specific tires adapted to the SUV. So that's something that we have to take into account. And I also think that, well, Jean-Philippe is right, because distributors have to be very careful in terms of the type of product they put into the market. So, in fact, some brands are blamed, considered to be dangerous, so therefore the retailers, the distributors have to really select among all those providers, all those suppliers. Whilst that's a natural phenomenon, I would say, in a given market, but I'm convinced that the Chinese manufacturers are going to improve. They did so with vehicles, and there is no reason why they wouldn't be able to do that with tires. Well, given what you have stated so far, are you optimistic about your profession and your different activities? Jean-Philippe? Well, I think that I'm fully confident. I wouldn't have been here if I was not confident with regard to the future of my activity. But as I said, the landscape, of the tire industry is such that, in fact, wholesalers do have a role to play in terms of supporting the auto center, the retailer, and so on and so forth, on all the different product ranges. Well, I would be less optimistic because, in fact, there are technologies who have become mature, and now with the electric vehicles, the customer is going to have more questions, in fact, and this dialogue is an opportunity for us to show our expertise, and this is good news. Well, with the electric vehicles, you have four wheels, just as with the, internal combustion engine. So I think we just need to explain again to the consumer the importance of tires, because that is what connects to the driver to the ground. Well, I said initially that we are in very interesting times, and I can confirm with Equipoto you can see that tires are back at the center of our considerations. I have been going or visiting the different players, and most of them responded in a positive fashion. So we do have different players involved. We have the public, also the audience present. So therefore, I think that we can say that we are optimistic. Well, maybe it's in fact the tire and innovation village, not just tire, but more particularly innovation. And the reason why we have organized this exhibition, which focuses on 15 innovations, which are still in the current tires, we then open up to the tires of the future, including some of the concepts being just at the engineering stage and others almost ready to be placed on the market. Thank you. Well, we have time for questions. If you have questions, don't hesitate to use the microphone. If you have questions, go ahead. So if they, yes, we do have a question. No, currently no. So if there are no questions, well, I would like to thank you all. Thank you for being present. Thank you to the guest speakers, and I would like to thank the technical teams as well as the organizers of Ecopoto for the trust. We shall be meeting again, I hope, within 2 months, because we shall be organizing 2 round tables, which we shall be talking about on our internet site, newspapers and so on. So, in the meantime, have a fruitful exhibition.
Merci, merci Romain. Merci à vous.
Well, thank you, Romain. Thank you all.
Bien sûr, Equipoto 2023. On se retrouve
we shall be back here
à 13h45 pour
at a quarter to 2 to talk about remanufacturing, and then the international trophies of innovation that will be at 2 o'clock.